Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Now I see the chat. Okay, guys.
Awesome.
Welcome to the AMA, and today we have Christy Carew. Am I saying that right, Christy? Christy Carew.
Yes.
Okay, great. So Christy Carew is here, and she is here to answer all the important questions you guys have. So as soon as you start thinking of questions, just drop them in the chat window, and I'll be kind of reading the chat and throwing the questions out to her. But while we're waiting for the first questions to come in, Christy, how about you just start out by just kind of giving us a quick overview of who you are, what you do, kind of your background, all that good stuff.
Sure. I started out in production music when I first got to LA, and like everybody else, I was looking for a way to make money composing music. And the first job that I had was working for a production company that was building their own in-house music library, because they mostly did like behind the scenes, like featurettes for DVDs and stuff. And rather than license music from a library, they're like, why don't we just hire this out and build up a huge library of pieces that we can use?
Yeah.
And so I essentially built their library for them over the course of 5 years. And it didn't pay that great, but looking back on it, it was one of the best experiences I could have had, because I had to write in every style. I had to write really fast. I had to be on a schedule, and that was good training for a young composer.
Yeah.
Like, whether you get that from working for another composer, whether you get that on your own, it was really great. And then I started freelancing with some other libraries, and in 2012 is when I started working at 5 Alarm. So I answered an ad for in-house composer,
Yeah.
and it was that, but it was also, the job was also as music director. So that's the other half of what I do is, the composers that are in our group, let's say they write for 5 Alarm, the other half of what I do is pitch that music to music supervisors, the people who work in the music departments, ad agencies, all day long.
So
So
that
if
sounds
I'm not
awesome.
making music, I'm listening to it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So like, what would you say? Walk us through like a typical day. How much time do you spend composing? How much time do you spend doing the managing part and the selection part process? And do you do
Yeah.
that from home, or you go to an office, or how does it work?
I do go to an office, so it's like a full-time gig in an office. And if I'm on a custom job, I'm in the studio at our office, and I'm in there all day, and
Cool.
I'm not doing any other duties. And then there's
When you say
weeks where the
custom job,
custom
is that a
stuff is
composing?
slow.
Is
Yeah,
that like
like a
custom
custom
composing?
composing
Okay,
or
gotcha.
arranging or orchestrating. Yeah. And then when I don't have one of those, then my day is just getting the emails in from briefs of clients for what they're looking for, and then just going through our hundreds of thousands of pieces of music and making playlists to send to them.
Okay.
And then in between those searches, I'm getting the submissions from composers, and he likes to call it curating. I'm
Yeah.
curating for my boss, so that every single submission that comes in is listened to.
Right.
And I don't know about other music libraries if they really do listen to everything, but my colleague Evelyn and I, we listen to everything, because, I'm a composer. I know what it's like to be researching and cold calling and cold emailing.
Yeah.
And I am never going to get even if an email is really poorly structured, which we can talk about later. I'm still going to read it, and I'm still going to listen to the music always. So,
Right. Right. So
yeah.
let me throw a question real quick out here from one of the people. This is from
Mhm.
Victor. He says, "What's better, knowing a lot of different styles, or focusing on just a few genres and doing them well?"
I would say split the difference. So, for example, if I get a submission that is just a handful of genres that are all within the same like spectrum, and the person is really, really good at that, I'm going to be like, okay, this is awesome. They've presented their best foot forward to me. And then I find out later that they're also really versatile and can go in other genres. It's kind of halfway. I'd say it's definitely not great to be the jack of all trades but master of none,
Right.
but it's also great to have the versatility. So for
Well,
example, we have a composer who sent to us like dark synthy, electronic type stuff. And I really liked it. And then it turns out he's also a really great songwriter and could take those tracks, trailerize them, add lyrics, add a melody, and it was awesome.
So I guess I'm wondering, because the current style I like to write a lot in is I don't know how to describe it. It's like ambient, cinematic, kind of indie style. And I'm a video editor actually by day. But
oh, nice.
we use a lot of those tracks on our nonprofit stuff. So anything that we want that really heavy emotion, and we're trying to get someone to donate or things like that. We do a lot of nonprofit work. We use that type of music. So my question is, if I've made a lot of those tracks, let's say I made 10 really great tracks that were all sounding like that, would that be a good thing? That you kind of you're just looking for great tracks, right? Or would you say,
I'm not really sure how I'm not sure how other libraries do it, but the way we do it, it's not like somebody sends us an album and that album goes into the library. You send us stuff and we look at our production schedule for that year and what are we going to be working on and what type of composers do we need to hire. So sometimes it's just a right place, right time. You send me those great tracks that you've done in that style. I look at my production schedule. Oh, we're doing an album like that later. I'm going to make a note and contact him, So it kind of just depends.
Tell me about the production schedule. What do you mean by that?
So basically we have, I'm not sure about the other libraries, how much they produce, how many labels they have in-house, but we have 5 labels in-house, and we do production within those libraries, as well as representing 100 others from across the world. And they all have their own production schedule.
Cool.
So we basically brief out a CD and then hire, I would call it a CD, obviously it's online.
Yeah.
We brief out an album and then we hire composers. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's a different composer for each song or a different set of songwriters. And then that's the content that we have for Five Alarm itself.
Okay. So what's the brief process? How does that exactly work?
That works with myself and the other members of the production team, just going over what we need and what is being asked for the most and any holes that we might have in the catalog. And then we structure our whole schedule of what we're going to produce around that.
Right. So what you're saying is you've got a catalog, you've got certain spots or maybe weak points or points where not even weak points, but you're like, this is hot right now, we need to have more of this stuff.
We need more, yeah.
You schedule it out throughout the year. We want to produce 10 of these tracks by this date, or is that, I'm just guessing here, but is that kind of what you're saying? Okay, exactly. Cool. I didn't even know it worked that way. I thought it was just submission and approval, and that I thought it was...
Yeah. Well, like cool. I said, it works that way for us. I'm not entirely sure how the other libraries do it, because I think there's like 5 or 6 big major ones, and I'm not entirely sure how the other big ones do it. But like, for example, we always do a trailer album every year. We always do an urban album. We always do like a super contemporary, what's on the pop charts type album. So
cool. Okay, we got another question. This one's from Mark. Is there a preference for tracks featuring live players, or yes or no to that? Again,
I'm giving all of these middle of the road answers. In certain situations, yes. Like I just did a string quartet album, and of course I hired live players to do that. But like I produce the trailer albums every year, and what I'll say to the composers is, look, if you are going to give me a track that I can't tell if it's live or not, and it's impeccable production, and it's not samples that are going to be dated in 5 years, then you could do it 100% in the box if you want.
Yeah.
But no, hardly anybody does that. They at least will record, one violinist or a brass player, or they'll get a live vocalist just to sweeten it. And the thing about using the live players, and especially with jazz and some of these other genres, like we always want live players on those, is because you're contributing to the part of the catalog that's evergreen, that doesn't belong to a certain, decade. It's not going to be like, oh, these samples everybody had these samples in like the early 2000s, and you can tell,
Right.
So in some genres, absolutely, that's a requirement. In others, I've had a trailer composer. I hired like a really well-known video game composer, and when he delivered, I couldn't tell that it hadn't been recorded live, because
Wow.
he's just like a crazy programmer, and he's a demo writer for all these different sample libraries. So he has the best and newest samples, and he knows how to manipulate them. So
You
yeah.
just said something that I didn't even realize they did. You said demo writer for sample libraries. I didn't realize that they actually.
Yes.
I mean, it makes sense, but I guess I
Oh
thought
yeah.
that people, you know, bought the library and then use the track. Is it some kind of deal where they give them the library for free if they make a track, or how does that work?
Yeah, yeah. And there's like 8DO. I always wonder if I'm saying that right, but they have a contest every year
Yeah.
where, you know, give us your best track that you made using our projects, and then you could become one of our new demo writers and get all the samples and, be
So, and
featured
it's
on
not
all these
necessarily a
things. So
staff thing, but you're a, when they say you're our demo writer, you could be a freelance person and still do something like that, or?
yeah, I'm not sure if they do have people on staff, but the person I'm thinking of in particular, he's not. He's his own guy. He's
Yeah.
freelance. Yeah.
I was just on their website a couple nights ago because they were having a huge sale, listening to all those
Yeah,
demo
I saw
tracks.
that.
So okay, cool.
I wanted to buy.
I know. Every time it's like my bank account
Yep.
it hurts from
Yeah.
doing this.
I have to stay away.
Yeah, exactly. I need to turn off all the emails from the sample library people. Okay, let's see. Let me pull this thing over so let's use. Okay, the next question. 5 Alarm is top shelf. Do you guys have a window where you accept new submissions?
Always.
Okay, all the time.
Always.
Okay.
Like I said, just we have, a line, like when you call in, we have a message that we transfer you to that has all the pertinent information, but always accepting submissions. And another thing is that sometimes I'll be at an AIMP event or one of the PMA events, and I'll meet somebody who has emailed their music or who wants to. Meeting somebody face to face like that, or making some sort of connection online, that always goes a longer way to at least making it stand out or making someone go back and take another listen. And it's not just me. I have a colleague who's also a music director, and she has a completely different set of sensibilities than me. Like I mostly am, have an orchestral background, a film composer and stuff. She is very pop and hip hop and urban oriented. Nice. And she's at every show of every cool new band. Like she knows all the cool indie bands and is just really tapped into like what is very current and very hip. So you have a team of people listening who come from all different backgrounds, right. And in that way, you never know who your music is gonna resonate with, and be like, hey, you have to hear this, to the person who makes the decisions, which is my boss. So
awesome. Well, we have more questions pouring in, but I guess I wanted to ask a question. Based on, like I said, my background's kind of in video editing. I've been doing that for about 4 years now, full time and stuff, and just started getting into composing about 6 months ago. So I'm pretty brand new to it all. But I mean, I've been in music all my life. But so my question would be, when someone wants to be a composer for music libraries, what are the kind of steps that they take? Kind of just, if you're starting from nothing, you decided, maybe, like for me, it was hearing a guy named Tony Anderson on MusicBed and just getting inspired and being, wow, I mean, I want to do that. That was it for me. So what are the steps that someone that kind of is starting out can take to get from, I want to do it, to actually selling tracks, or getting tracks licensed with someone like you guys?
Yeah. So for other libraries that don't do it the way that we do it, that, buy tracks from people, there's another composer, a really dear friend of mine, who is another admin of the Perspective film scoring forum on Facebook, Adonis Eletris, and he's based in Greece. Yeah. You should have him on here for an AMA, because he is the master of this.
What's his name?
What he always stresses, Adonis Eletris, amazing person, amazing composer. He stresses that it's volume. You literally have to have so many tracks done, so many tracks written, so many tracks ready to go,
Okay.
That's for the libraries that have the different business model than we do, who are going to be, purchasing tracks and putting them in their library. Um, and really, when someone is going to listen to your music, like when I'm listening to music, I'm not necessarily looking to see what credits a person has
Yeah.
in other music libraries, but it doesn't hurt to have, started selling them to say, oh, my music is represented by such and such, and always plan for your music to be exclusive. Don't
How's that
try
work?
to do non-exclusive. Don't try to relabel them and have them in all different libraries. This is actually something that the SVPs of NBC, CBS, and Sony talked about the other day at the
Okay.
event that I mentioned. They said they've been burned by non-exclusive tracks that, are with this library, but also with this library and might have a different title. And they don't want that. They're going to work with the libraries that have exclusive contracts with writers where your music is placed here for this amount of time. They know exactly where it is. They know they can clear it one stop. That's important as well. So I would say for the libraries that buy large amounts of tracks, you have to write a lot of tracks, and every single one of your tracks has to sound amazing and be done and be a finished product.
Yeah.
And you're not sending anyone anything that you say, oh, I still have to do X, Y, and Z on it. No, no, no. Write a lot, be
It's
really
ready.
confident about the styles that you're writing in, and feel really good about it. And then if you're in LA, I should give advice for out of LA too, but if you're in LA, like I said, going to the PMA events, going to the AIMP events, the SCL events, and meeting the people who work at the libraries, meeting the people who you want to network with and build a relationship with, so that in the case of us, we would be, calling you to bring you on to an album that
Yeah.
we were producing.
So what were you gonna
And
say for out of
also
LA people?
for out of LA people, I'm trying to think of how to build relationships only over email and phone. So I'm not entirely sure
Because I'm in Oklahoma
what the
actually.
best way. You're in Oklahoma, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'd have to think about that more. I think that really just having great music though, like, is going to make people be interested in you and want to work with you. And then always, if you're great when they're talking to you, great on the phone, great on email, you always deliver on time, you always deliver more than you need to. Like, they don't have to ask for the stems, they don't have to ask for your co-writer agreement, they don't have to ask for your musician release forms. To be on top of everything is going to make them want to work with you more.
So, and kind of to the end of that question is, what's the first step? Let's say you have tracks, you're ready. You're like, I've got great tracks, they're all finished. Now I want to reach out to a library. What's the first step that someone should do?
Me personally, I would always call.
Okay.
I would look up on their contact page and see. Usually, libraries have a special page for submissions. Like Five Alarm's sister company is Jingle Punks. And I don't think they really do the whole calling in thing. They have like a certain window where I think they have like a little time clock that's ticking that says in this amount of time you can submit.
Okay.
I would just make a huge master list of all the different libraries that I wanted to submit to. I would write down their preferred way of submission. You can find all of that stuff online. And then I would just keep going, and I would be tenacious, and I would be persistent, and I would do my research. I would watch all of the shows that are on TV right now. I would watch the advertising. I would think about, especially trailers too. I would try to think about forward, because especially in the trailer world, the feedback that hi Wyatt, there's my son's coming to say hi. Especially in the trailer world, the feedback that we get is we don't know what we want something different, we want something new, we want the next bram, but we don't know what the next bram is.
Right.
So I would
Someone
be
had to do that in the
constantly
first
widening
place.
my music. Yeah, somebody came up with that, right?
Right.
Somebody came up with the slow, haunting cover of a pop song that's used ironically. So I would be trying to push my musical knowledge and my musical palette as far as I could, so that I find a unique and interesting thing that I can bring to these styles that are popular, that are being used, that I can offer to the libraries. And kind of combine those two things, combine having your own voice with stellar production skills, a great personality, a great way of working with people, and also the styles that the libraries need.
Cool. Okay. Let me get to another question. This is from Mark as well. Again, is there ever demand for jazz tracks?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. More like cocktail jazz,
Okay.
scenes where in a lot of TV, we place jazz in TV all the time. You know, scenes at a fancy party, at an
Yeah.
art gallery, even things like a family reunion or a dinner at people's houses. Yes, jazz, always. And it's evergreen and it doesn't go out of style.
When you say place, for the way I do it at my company, we do mostly commercials. Is we go on the site,
Mhm.
look for a song, find something we like, download it as a temp with the audio watermark, and then once it gets approved by the client, purchase it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Is that how does it work with you guys?
Yeah, it's a mixture of that, like needle drop licensing,
Uh huh.
basically. Once the client has approved it and they want to go through, then they get in touch with the other side of our team, which is our licensing team. But we also have what's called blanket licenses with a lot of companies, in which case, like for example, we have a deal with Netflix where sometimes they're reaching out to us on a specific show for a specific need that they have. Other times they're just using our music in all the promos. And for example, the other day I loaded up Netflix and the home screen came on and they were featuring a show, and kind of like a video starts playing but with no dialogue, just like a preview of the show, and it was our music, and I was like,
Nice.
oh, that's cool. And then so I went to another show and it was our music again, and I was like, and then I went to a movie and it was our music again. So it was really cool to think that, you know, everybody opens up the homepage of Netflix and that so many times it was our music that started playing. So in those cases, you know, the music director doesn't touch it, and the account executive, we call them, doesn't touch it. It's part of the deal, and they reported that they used it.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is the most effective way of presenting and submitting music to a production library via email? Do you suggest sending tracks in MP3 or WAV format, or using website links such as SoundCloud?
Okay, so really, any of those are fine. The one thing is, it's really easy to tell when something is a form letter where the person's name has been, you know, substituted for another, and the company's name has been substituted for
Yeah.
another. Like I said, I always click through and I always take the time, but I'm going to be more interested in listening if I don't have to work for it. And even using Box, like even with Box, I have to click on a link and then they all load, and then I have to click on the individual MP3 and then it loads and then I get to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason why something like SoundCloud or another website that has all the tracks and I can
Mm-hmm.
stream them and I don't have to do any extra
Would you
clicks.
say maybe
That's the
creating
only
like
reason
a
why I personally
playlist and
prefer
sending a
that.
link to the playlist? That way you click one link and now you're there, and here's the 10 songs I want you to hear, or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And even, you know, I think everybody knows not to attach MP3s or waves,
Yeah.
because that's kind of, you know, clogging up the inbox and having to see that you have like a 21 megabyte message.
Right, and you have to download
So
the
for me
files and.
personally, I know for my boss, yeah, exactly. You basically just want to present yourself in as clear and concise a way as possible. You know, do a little bit of research into the company that you're contacting and make your first paragraph, you know, saying something about why you want to work with them. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to grab water. I forgot
No
to get
problem.
water. I'm talking so much that I'm coughing. I'll be right
Yeah.
back.
I think this is an interesting topic because obviously the first thing that you guys have to do when you reach out to a music library is send an email. And what do you say? You know, do you start out by, you know, giving a list of all the stuff you did? Do you start out by talking about that company, why you like the
Okay,
company,
I'll
why
be
you want
done
to work
soon,
with
bud.
them? You know, so
I'll be done soon. You're okay.
yeah, I was just telling them about that's kind of a scary thing, is, you know, you've got all your tracks made, and now you know, okay, I got to send an email to a person. Where do I start? What am I supposed to say? You know, how do I make this, how do I make myself come across professional and all that stuff?
Yeah. And I mean, the best thing that I can maybe reveal to everyone is that the people who are receiving your email are, you know, just regular people like you, not fancy people who you
Right.
have to like super impressed by saying, oh, I'm an Emmy winner, I'm a Grammy winner. No. In my case, the person that you're reaching out to is a fellow composer who understands, that exact feeling. So to be natural, to be yourself, to express some of your personality, to present your music in a way that's clear and easy for the person to access and really easy for them to get a feel for what you do and for your voice. And I don't know if am I allowed to plug a service that I just found out about and just started using?
No rules here.
Um, I just found out about a website called Real Crafter, REEL, and I've started using that.
Tell us about that.
That's a website that, I'm sorry, I cannot stop coughing.
Yeah, no problem. I'll write that down.
One sec. This actually happened to me also. I did a Society of Composers and Lyricists panel at the beginning of the year, talking about the same kind of thing. Yeah. And I had an outrageous coughing fit at that too, so I apologize, you guys. So I've started using Real Crafter in addition to SoundCloud because it makes these really beautiful, simple pages. You can upload a logo, a picture of yourself, your contact information, and it has a light color scheme and a dark color scheme. And it's just really clear and simple. And if you sign up for the monthly thing, you can customize it more and make it look really beautiful. But just for me, I pay for SoundCloud every month, but I really like this new thing, Real Crafter, and it just is, streams, and you label your tracks like this one is action, this one is trailer, this one is indie.
Would this replace
and so I've started
having a
to see that pop
or
up.
does it live inside your website? Like if I want to make a
it lives
website?
inside your website, yeah.
Really?
It lives inside your website, but then you can also just send it as individual links.
Okay, cool, very cool.
Yeah.
I'll check it out for sure because I haven't built a personal website yet. I'm worrying about the music side first, but once I have some stuff, I'll have to kind of start thinking about that. Cool. Okay.
That would be my biggest advice, though, is don't make them work for it. Don't make them work to know who you are, and don't make them work to hear your music.
Cool. Okay. Is it possible to audition for you as a composer using any material, or would it need to be the material trying to get signed, i.e. just to give 5 Alarm an idea of style's quality? I ask because most of my material is already exclusive, but I create custom songs daily, so wondering if it's possible to get emails for briefs or requested material. I think they're asking, do you guys release what you're looking for to the public, or do we have to kind of get, like you said, right, a little bit lucky, right timing sort of thing? Like to give it a casting call.
we don't really release it. The best thing to do would probably be to look for examples. Go, not just us, but all the other libraries, go and look and see what they released in the past year and think about what we would be doing going forward. Like, for example, I mentioned we always do a trailer album. We always do an urban album. Mm-hmm. So, we do like a reality underscore album or a TV underscore. So even just thinking about what is happening in all of those departments. And like I said, trying to come up with something new and fresh and interesting. Because for 5 Alarm, like I said, we don't just take tracks and ingest them. If you were to send a submission email, it would be just showing what you can do and just showing like, hey, if you wanted to hire me to come on and write some tracks on your next album, this is what I'm good at. This is what I can do.
Cool. So I guess piggybacking off that, if I already had a relationship with someone like you, for example, would it be appropriate for me to reach out to you and say, hey, is there anything you guys are looking for? I want to make sure I'm sending you stuff. Maybe I have 50 tracks and I want to send you the 10 that are based on what you're looking for to save you time, for example.
Yeah, that would just be giving me an idea of, okay, if I'm producing an album in this style, I have you in the back of my head to potentially call and work on it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
but like when I get a I'm a client, I'm pitching from the pre-existing material that we already have in the library.
Right. So when you
Yeah.
guys, you were just mentioning, basically asking a composer to write a certain style. Is that something, when someone already has a relationship with you, you guys reach out to certain composers who are not staff and ask them, hey, we need trailer tracks, or how does that work?
Well, like I said, on an album by album basis. So anything that is a custom need from our clients, we usually do in-house.
Okay.
And then
gotcha.
anything else of me reaching out to a composer would be for the albums that we produce.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're in LA, but you are in LA, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You, based on the panels you were saying, I just wanted to make sure. There's been I've seen tons of discussions about, do you have to be in LA? Do you not have to be in LA? Is technology changing that? Do you have any opinions on that subject at all?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's something that Richard Kraft always says in our Facebook forum, and that is, if you want to be a fisherman, go where the fish are. And I agree with that, but I also think that there's a lot of fish in a lot of different places other than LA. And there's also great ways for the fishermen to contact the fish that are in a different pond. So I kind of agree with both. I think that there's a lot of value to being here, but I also know of a lot of composers who live in other places and have amazing careers and fly in here when they need to. And, I have one really good composer friend who lives in Chicago, and he makes a certain amount of trips out here, and he does a good solid week, and he crams it full of meetings and really squeezes the life out of it, and takes everybody out to dinner and does his thing and renews the relationships. So I think that actually both can work.
Okay.
There's even like huge listers that don't even live here. Not like necessarily the huge guys, but there's like A- listers who live other places and come in and rent a studio during TV season and work on the show they're working on, and then they fly back. So I think it's all
were they
really
there
doable.
at one point and left and made the relationships and left, or were they never there at all and made the relationship somehow?
That's a good question. The person I'm thinking of in particular, I think he was here and then left, but I'm sure there are people who have never lived here and just come back and forth. I'm sure that they exist. Yeah.
The only example I can think of, the guy I was mentioning, Tony Anderson, he I think lives in Kentucky or something like that, and he's done, I think most of his relationships were created through being on the music bed, getting a bunch of placements through that, and then I don't know how he connected with the two directors, but I think he's done 2 feature-length films. So somehow he connected with, I don't know how he got in touch with those directors at one point. Because I mention this because I know a lot of the music library people also are film scoring people, and there's kind of a blend, like you said, that you're a hybrid as well. So something people are, I'm sure, interested in hearing about.
You know what? That actually just made me think of something. We do have, on one of our libraries that we represent that's based in the UK, we had this one album that was really, really super popular. And they were kind of like indie artists before they started writing library music. And this track, every track on the album got licensed, but in particular, 2 tracks were like really, really popular. And people wanted to know who had written them. And I know that we had people reach out directly to those composers as a result of their tracks being really popular and being licensed, kind of like the music bed composer you mentioned.
Did you say that they wanted to know who had written them because, was it a band name that was covering their names up? Is that
or they wanted to know the composer's name, whoever they were, and they wanted to work with them, not just through us. So, they found out who it was, reached out to them, and it got to the point where we asked the library to bring those guys back and do volume 2, and they're like, they're too busy, we can't get them.
Wow. And I've heard of that happening too with people. They'll get a really good composer submitting to their library, and then they'll say, "Hey, we want more tracks from you," and the person says, "Sorry, I'm doing X now," or and they're like, "Dang it, we lost our guy," or whoever it was.
So maybe that's a key to what we were talking about before. Like, how does a completely inexperienced person get started? Maybe that's like a part of the puzzle that you can't predict and you can't time and you can't force is your stuff just hitting at the right time and being used a lot and placed a lot, and a lot of people just knowing about you and your music. So
Yeah. Okay.
or even like a music supervisor who used your track.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm asking more questions than I'm reading because I'm just so interested. Let me try to ask someone else's question. Sorry, guys. I'm not trying to ignore you here. Let's see. Okay. Back to the playlist and submission discussion. Is there an optimum number of tracks to include on the playlist? How many tracks is too many? So I guess, if I reach out to you, how many tracks do you want me to send you?
Yeah. I like to hear 10 to 12, and I get that number directly from our clients. Unless the client says, send me as much of this style as you have, I always send 10 to 12, because in my 5 years as a music director, I've learned that that's what they want. So then I took that and I realized, oh, there's a reason for this. Like, it's actually like the perfect sweet spot number.
That's funny because
unless you're really...
I was just going to say that that's the length of a typical album.
Yeah, that's true. We do 10 to 12
there's
tracks
something
on every album that we do.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, they just like to see that. It's a good number.
Okay. Let's see. Someone said realcrafter.com looks good. So thanks for the info.
And I wasn't paid to say that. I use it. I actually crafted a demo that I needed to send earlier this week, and I found out about it from the Perspective Forum, and that's how I don't know the guy who built it.
You mentioned the Perspective Forum. Did you say that you were an admin of that?
Yeah, I'm an admin of that with some fellow composers. Adonis, each one of these composers does film. But Adonis has made an amazing career with Music Library. So has Miriam Mayer. She's another one of the admins. She is a session musician, a great composer. She's done a lot of library work. And then Nicholas Repetto is the other admin, and he is mostly film scoring. He did the ASCAP workshop last year. Also a session musician, really great guy. And we have about 5,000 members in there now. And a lot of A-listers hang out. Like you'll type a comment and then I'll get a notification. Bear McCreary liked your comment. Hans Zimmer liked your comment.
Wow.
So-and-so. There's people who hang out in that forum who you would be shocked to know that they're there looking at what people post.
That's really cool.
And absorbing it and stuff. So a lot of really well-known composers give their time there and share their insights. And a really well-known agent also posts a lot. And his advice is, the reason why it's called Perspective is because he gives us all such perspective.
Who started it, by the way?
It's a really... Miriam started it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have like every week there's a different thing that we focus on. Like 1 week there's a thread where you can post, kind of like your feedback thread in your group.
Yeah.
Post a track, get feedback, post what you're working on. So you can do as much self-promotion in this one thread as you want. We used to do a thread with treasure hunting where we would post different screenings, panels, festivals, events, concerts. And then also we have a thread for anybody who wants to jump in on a shared session. So if somebody is having an orchestral recording session or a string quartet or anything else, and they have an extra hour that they want to bring another composer on, we do that. Or people who want to pool together on a specific date. So it's a really great resource. And there's a lot of people in there who have made great careers in library music as well. So
yeah, I'm in 3 groups, including mine. So I know actually I'm in Perspective too. I just haven't looked there as much yet because I just found out about it recently. But the Facebook groups I would
awesome. Delve in there.
Because I'm in the Film Scoring Academy, Global Composers Network, and Music Library Composers.
Yeah, I'm in that one too.
Yeah, so I like all of them. They all have a different kind of flavor, and I can ask a question and I'll say, I think this question would land well here, or maybe these people focus on this. So it's cool. I like being part of all of it. Let me grab one second. I need to grab my power cable.
Orchestration Online.
1 second.
And that's another group that everybody should join, is Orchestration Online. It's amazing. Another Facebook group.
Okay, sorry about that. Didn't want to die in the middle of the stream.
No worries. Yeah, that wouldn't
Sorry,
be
what,
good.
what were you saying?
I was just going to say another Facebook group that I think all composers should join is called Orchestration Online. It's run by my orchestration teacher, and again, he does not know I'm saying this. And I have learned so much just about like the craft of orchestration and writing music,
Is that
just
a
like the
website or
classical
a
nuts and
Facebook?
bolts that. It's a website and a Facebook group, but the Facebook group is very active. It's I think 18,000 members,
Whoa.
and it's just absolute gold. And it's in the past year I've really committed to watching all the YouTube videos, and I started supporting him on Patreon. And
What's his name?
my ability as an orchestrator, Thomas Goss is his name.
Okay.
He's based in New Zealand, and I have learned so much. And even at my job, I remember after I'd been working on the Orchestration Online stuff for like 2 weeks, I had a custom job come in that required, a big orchestral sound and just like a wild adventure type sort of track. And my boss immediately heard the difference and thought that it was so great, and he could tell that I had been working really hard on that. So that's another thing I recommend, just to work your muscles as a composer.
Yeah, that makes me think of a question, and this is another question from me based on someone starting out. Is it? Do you have any recommendations on how to go about, the education process as far as it goes? I've been looking into some different online things. I found one called ThinkSpace Education. I found Berkeley Online. I found one. I forgot the name. Oh, Symphonic Orchestration. It has like just one or two chords. Is there any recommendations you have on just kind of the education process of just starting out?
Yeah, I mean, there was actually a thread about this on Perspective the other day. A guy asked, I don't read music. I don't actually take a pen and a piece of paper and write music. Do I need to? And everybody's feedback was, there are huge composers who don't read and write music, who do everything by ear and have their teams that orchestrate and put everything into the parts for the players and everything. So the only thing it can do is add to your depth and knowledge and complexity and artistry as a composer. It's not going to take anything away from you. So yeah, any one of those options that you looked at online that feel right to you. And then also even just like studying with a private teacher. And that's another thing that can be accomplished online. And honestly, the Orchestration Online, being a part of the Patreon group, has been such an incredible education for me that I definitely recommend that.
As far as the private teacher?
Yeah, I don't think that you...
Is there a place I could look for a private teacher or anyone who's looking for something like that? Do you know? Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I've seen people post in Perspective like, hey, I'm looking for a composition teacher. You can even say in what style you're looking to learn, and people will recommend up the wazoo because, as we're all composing, we're all doing other things. We all have some people teach, some people are gigging musicians. I used to work at a church for 7 years. I played at a church playing piano,
Yeah.
So yeah, I bet you could find a teacher that could work perfectly with your schedule and perfectly with the things you want to study. Like I had a teacher for a while just helping me with production skills.
Yeah.
Because I hate to contribute to any sort of stereotype, but in terms of like making my computer do what I had in my mind, I wasn't that great at.
Yeah.
So I hired a teacher that helped me learn how to be better with all my different programs and my computers and stuff. So
well,
yeah, I mean that's the one thing that is so crazy right now is any knowledge that you want is at your fingertips, and you just have to find the right person that you work with well and can communicate well and just pay them to teach you.
For me, one of the tricky things that I'm kind of going through right now is, okay, I need to know how to use a sequencer DAW. I need to know how to use music notation software. I need to know, just from writing perspective, harmony, all that stuff, theory, which I already know how to read music because I played trumpet for, 10 years. But as far as taking, from reading music as a trumpet player and writing music for an entire orchestra is a whole different thing. So how to orchestrate, how to write for each instrument, how to take that, put it on the sequencer, sample libraries, MIDI sequencing. It's like, I don't even know where to start.
It's so much.
So I've just
And you
been
have to
kind of
fix the
picking away
problems
at
when your
different
computer
things, but I mean, it's almost like I want
Yeah.
someone to say, okay, work on this for now, and this is the next step. You know, it's to lay a path. I guess maybe that's a
Yeah.
private tutor or something like that, or taking a really
Absolutely.
drawn out
Absolutely.
course. So cool. Let me get
Yeah.
to another question. I feel like I'm hogging up all you guys' time.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I have time for a few more, but I have to start doing the routine for my kids pretty soon. So I can probably do like 3 more, I'd say.
okay. Do you want to be off in
Yeah.
what, 5 minutes? Does that sound good?
Or like, yeah, we could do like probably 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
let's see. Okay, cool. Let's see. So someone asked, would you suggest calling Fivearm directly for submissions or email through website? So I think this is specifically about your company.
Yeah, for us specifically, when you call, you get put through to the voice message that explains, here's the email address, here's who to send it to if you are an indie artist, because we also have a catalog representing indie artists. Here's who to contact if you are a composer with an instrumental submission, or if you have, amazing songs. So for us, then it goes, they give you the email address and all the other instructions, and then it starts filtering through our process. So definitely you can call, or you can go on the website and find the submission email.
Cool. How many pieces do we have to send? Oh, so, okay, that's already been answered. Someone said, what if we only have one piece? Can we still submit?
Yes, because if you want to just give whoever you're submitting to a feel for who you are as a composer, but I would wait until you had more.
Yeah, like
because
you, said,
you want
10 or
to
12
show
might be a good place.
Yeah, other things you can do, or even even if they're all in the same style, just demonstrating who you are as a composer. Because one track could be amazing, and you hear it and go, "Oh my gosh, wow, this is great! Like I want more." And then what are you going to do? Have to wait for more. So I would wait until you had a bigger collection. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Someone said, love the treasure hunting thread. Let's see. ASCAP or BMI?
I need to start that up again. They are both awesome.
Okay.
I cannot make a call on either of them because I'm BMI personally myself, because the first composer that I worked for was with BMI. Both of these organizations are staffed with such incredible people that believe not just in getting you your money, but in developing your career. And there's so many workshops that both societies do, and so many different ways that you can use their help and their expertise in the industry to advance your career as a composer. So I don't think either one is better than the other. I actually think they're both great because of working at Five Alarm. I know so many people that work at both, and they're all amazing people. And yeah, I think it's just a call. Like I said, I went with BMI originally because the first person I worked for was, but I have lots of friends who are ASCAP, ride or die. So it's either one, and they both work exceptionally hard to get you your money and to track everything.
So for me, like I said, I'm pretty green to the industry. What do I need to know about ASCAP and BMI? What role do they play? And I guess where do I even start with that?
Yeah, they're the ones. They're gonna be the ones who send you your money from your placements.
Okay.
And you'll get a quarterly statement that will show all the different things all the different shows and programs and movies and even radio where your music was used, and exactly how much you made and how many seconds of it was used. And the hope is that each quarter those checks get bigger, and those placements, you get more and more pages of placements. And yeah, they are basically, when a production, let's say a TV show uses your music, then a cue sheet is going to be filled out that says, okay, I used Josh's piece, such and such, here's his IPI number, CAE number. And then it gets sent to BMI, they track it, they log it, they calculate how much money you're owed, and then they send you a check.
So do you guys, let's say it was licensed from your library. I thought it came directly from you guys, but it goes from you to BMI to me. Is that how it works?
No, basically we license it, and then the production company makes the cue sheet and sends that to the societies. Sometimes we help with cue sheets, but not really too often. And I do my own cue sheets when I work on like an independent thing. There was an indie feature film I did a couple years ago, and I just handled the cue sheet stuff. And then later the film was released on Amazon, and I was like, oh, I'm really glad I took care of that, because I just didn't know if the production company knew how to do that, because they were pretty new. So you have to be on top of it. And there's a lot of libraries that we represent that have people on staff who that's their main job, is to comb through it and make sure that all the money is coming in that needs to be coming in.
So, is that something I need to set up before I start submitting to libraries, or is that come after, or how does that work?
Yeah. No, set that up first. Choose which one you're going to do, get all registered, and that, because they're going to, a library, us at least, let's say we were to hire you to write on an album, after your tracks are approved, what I'd be getting from you is that information. What's your CAE number? Which performing rights organization are you with? Because then I'm registering them all, and they're all getting sent to our people who put all of that into the system. So yeah, you need to have that ready.
Okay, gotcha. And you said you don't necessarily recommend one over the other. Either way, it's great.
No, I think they're both great. Either way, you're going to be taken care of, and there's going to be people who care about you and want to see you get your money. So
cool. Everybody says thanks for the info. They did not. This I did not know.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, maybe let's do one last thing. Is just have you say whatever tidbit of advice maybe you could say. Last, final words. Something that maybe someone hasn't asked, but you thought that maybe composers would need to hear. What would you want to hear when you were just starting?
Okay. This is my tidbit, and it's actually should make everybody feel really great. The event that I went to the other day, the message that they left us with was, there's never been a better time to be a media composer, in terms of the sheer amount of content that's being produced. And the willingness of music supervisors, showrunners, people in music departments to take chances on newer composers and to find music from different venues. So there's not necessarily this idea of, I have to have only the coolest, hippest commercial artist place in this really important montage scene in my show. If they receive the perfect song to serve the storytelling from a music library, they're going to use it. And there's not really those strict barriers there anymore, because there's so much amazing content being produced now. Everything has opened up, and it should be something that everybody feels really good about, that, yeah, there's a lot of people doing this, and there's a lot of really talented people doing this, but there's also a lot of places for your music to go. And there's a lot of stuff being created now that you and your music and your voice as a storyteller, and that's how you should think of yourself. Don't necessarily think of yourself as somebody who's just writing stock music to fit into a library. Even if you're writing just like a drone track or a very simple jazz track, always be looking at it as you're a storyteller, and this track will eventually go into a show or a movie or an ad where you're going to be part of that voice.
It's cool.
So they left us, these heads of music left us all feeling great about how this is a really exciting time to be a composer and to be a persistent, tenacious, productive composer.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks everybody for coming, and especially thank you to Christy for
thank you.
giving your time. I know you've got a family to take care of, and you got a lot of work to do, I'm sure, too. So thanks for your time and all I've learned a ton in 55 minutes, and so it's just awesome to get to hear from someone who's been there and already kind of knows what's up, and I try to soak up the information as much as I can. But anyway, so thank you so much, and we'll see you guys all soon on the next AMA. Okay.
See you soon. Bye. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.